I'm Jan. I'm really happy, and I want to thank for having the opportunity to present my group. Um, so essentially, I am based at the University of Wrocław, with the main building, the representative side of it that you can see on the slides. But maybe the important thing is that I am not alone there. So essentially, there is a nugget of a group at the Department of Maths and Computer Science. So we have people coming from both directions, doing deep learning and NLP. So this would be me and two collaborators, Paweł Rychlikowski and Piotr Wnuk-Lipiński, but also algorithmic fundamentals, so sketching big data, essentially efficient approximations to algorithms on graphs, and this is Dr. Przemysław Uznański, and also classical statistics with some new variants like slope variable selection knockoffs done by Małgorzata Bogdan. So if you are somewhere on the spectrum between applied math but still math, or deep learning and experiments, we have something in between also with a touch of algorithmics. A few of the projects that I guess we are proud of is, first of all, we worked on speech processing. So we essentially worked on the attention models for speech recognition. I worked then on making them work for translation, so they can recognize speech, translate. And lastly, I'm working on self-supervised speech processing, about which I will tell a little bit more in a moment. So I guess we are covering this important application, and also for me it's a good pretext to develop deep learning methods in general, because you can't really develop deep learning methods without the use inside, because it's a very practical domain, as you all know. Then on the NLP sides, we tried to essentially do a Polish or Slavic touch on the NLP methods. So the coolest results that I like is that we did a parser that was able to parse Jabberwock in Polish, which is even more abstract than the English version, because all of the words are reminiscent of something but non-existing, and essentially the green attributes are correct. We also did recently something for named entity recognition and linking entities. So for instance, there is the Prague in Warsaw, and there is the Prague, the capital of Czech Republic, and there are different Pragues. But NLP systems already struggle to essentially link them. So that's what we do. And then for the self-supervised learning, I do have a project right now on unit discovery and essentially discovering the letters in handwriting and phonemes in speech. So how to put boundaries, how to link them, and then ultimately how to predict what comes next. So if you want to do machine learning on a sequence, are you able to smartly chunk it into smaller parts so that the next level does something with less work, rather than keep the full resolution up to the very high level, or do a uniform subsampling, which also shouldn't really work that well. So this is for the project. Then we do maintain some collaborations. So these are the collaborations that I had. So I did some research with people from Mila, from Google, and last year I actually had a 9 people strong team at the JSALT workshop with students from MIT. So there is Samir from Hopkins, Nanshin, and then a few French universities, and an ex-Apple engineer also dedicated to this handwriting. And a few publications of me and of the other collaborators. So if you would want to know what we do, there is an iCalp, so sort of NIPS of algorithms. There is a collaboration with Stanford, which went well, and then a few of my speech-related papers that we are trying to put into conferences. And so if you would like to work or study with us, we have essentially 2 offers. One of them is we have a master's in data science program. So it's a master program, 2 years, all in English. We try to keep it fairly small because our approach is not to be the largest department, but say the friendliest or the most individual. And the applications are still open for Polish citizens. For the international students, I am afraid that you would need to wait for the next year, because the deadline has passed a few days ago. But for Polish citizens, you can still apply. So if you would want, there is the website for the URL. But you are also looking for essentially academic collaborators, because we do have some NCN-funded fellowships for masters, PhDs, and postdocs. So if you'd want to work more on this essentially self-supervised learning, and at essentially any level, where for master you would need to join the other master program, but then for PhD students and postdocs you can take you right away. We do have some paid positions for this, and the official call will be in a moment, because I am still signing up the deal with NCN. It's a new grant, but essentially we're doing it. So now I will use the opportunity to change hats a little bit, because we are also trying to have a startup which would bring machine learning and graphs, building on the strengths of the department in algorithmics and machine learning. So on the intersection of machine learning and graphs, there's pretty much logistics. So I can just tell you why this would be fun and important. I can't tell you too much about the methods, but if you want to join us, we would tell you more. So trade is actually a pretty important business, because everything we get, it has to somehow fly to us or sail to us. And as we have seen in the past months, it's not so easy to predict whether things will arrive on time, because there is a tiny little virus and all of the world works in a very different way. So there are all those questions like, will this arrive on time? Will there be anomaly? How should I adapt? And people are not super good at essentially monitoring it. And especially where there is something which changes everything and you have to start from scratch. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to essentially take IoT data, so something which is recorded by the trucks, ships, devices. It's pretty messy, because it's sampled not as often as your smartphone, because the devices should last for like months and not days on a single charge. And then do some graph-based algorithms and graph induction and put machine learning on top of it with a tiny touch of deep learning to essentially answer those questions automatically. So if you'd want to see this, I also encourage you to essentially send me an email or reach out through LinkedIn. So two possibilities: either the academic world, you want to study, we have something for you. If you want to work, we do have open positions. And if you do want to try the more startup-y vibe, we also have something for you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for the quick introduction. I really like the project about chunking the speech signal. I'm actually working on something very similar on videos, for chunking videos, and it's a really cool problem. And I also know Alex Graves, who is giving a talk at the school a bit later. He's also been looking a lot at this problem. I think it's a very hard problem.
I guess we should talk, because we actually have a way to do it with like deep clustering, which doesn't fail.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, so I think there is only one question for now. Someone is asking about collaborations. If you're open to collaborations with PhD students from other countries,
Yes.
working in speech. So yeah, I guess you've answered this question. Yeah. So we will make available the slides. Is that okay to share them with the participants? Yes, okay.
Definitely.
So that way everyone can have Jan's contact to.
I probably will add one more slide with the contact information. But for collaboration, yes, we are open. We can also take someone for like a short internship or a visit.
Okay, great.
So I mean, right now probably remote work is more appropriate, but let's say that let's hope that in half a year the normal way of doing business would be. So drop me a line and.
That's great.
Yes.
And maybe one other question. Could you tell us a bit about your career path? Where did you do your studies? Now you work in Poland. Would you encourage other Polish people who are abroad to return to Poland to work in the field?
Oh yes, so I did my undergrad and masters in Wrocław, but at the Technical University. Then I decided to see the US for my PhD. So I not knowing too much, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, because I liked the advisor, and I started to work on machine learning just at the right moment, because this was the moment where deep learning was taking off. So it's not what I did for my PhD, but it's sort of whetted my appetite for the new neural network, say, research. Then I went back to Poland, and the good thing about being in Poland is that there are many opportunities essentially to start collaborations. So I was able to go to Mila, and that's when things took off. We worked on those speech models, and then Google wanted me to work on those speech models. So I went to Google for a while. Then I said, okay, I want to be back home for many reasons. So I kept the collaboration with Google from home for a while, and then I am trying right now to essentially teach a little bit and also start this business. So I guess that Poland is at a proper moment right now to go back, because there are many opportunities also for returning people. And I cannot say that we are really on the fringes. We are maybe not in the proper center, but it's not like the end of the world. We are somewhere in the middle and trying to get closer to the center all the time. But if there's no one here, this won't happen.
And I also assume that working on NLP is great in Poland, because is it very developed, like the NLP domain in Polish?
So for a while, it has been the case that methods for English didn't really translate well to Polish. Right now, I guess that with deep learning, if you have a single neural net which works well for speech recognition, translation, and image recognition, it also works well for English and Polish. It's just a super generic technique. So there are many efforts right now for Polish NLP to essentially evaluate the English methods, or to provide Polish versions of the English benchmark. So for instance, there is English glue and there is Polish clay, apparently named the translation. But I guess that we are at a point where even working on Polish essentially gives you a few more, say, problems but the methods would be generic, so they should apply to a broader range of languages as well. And again,
I am
Polish.
also very interested in this. Sorry, for the Romanian language. So I'm from Romania, and I know like different countries try to implement these systems in their own languages, because like to have a proper customer support service or this kind of applications, you do need to fine tune the models on the language of your country to make sure that everything works nicely.
Yes. So there is a lot to be done, but I guess that the techniques for Polish and English, you can work on Polish and essentially have results which would generalize, and you can also borrow from the other languages. And then complexity-wise, Polish is, I guess, in 1/3 between English and crazy native Indian languages which don't have a space character. So even word detection is a tough problem. And they sort of suffer because they can't do word vectors, because it's hard to have words. So we are somewhere in the middle. The words change, but you can still enumerate them. I guess Romanian would be